Thanks to all who have joined for this exciting webinar, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are from. I appreciate you all joining us today for this exciting healthcare webinar. I hope your day is going exceptionally well. So today we are diving into a very stimulating topic, which is how digital innovations are shaping patient experience. Your attendance is greatly valued. So allow me to start with an introduction of myself and AI CoreSpot as a company to you. My name is Nitin Naveen, and I serve as the Vice President of Innovation and Strategy at AI CoreSpot. With more than a couple of decades of experience in different consulting firms, navigating emerging technologies, I'm privileged to have collaborated with numerous stakeholders, global thinkers, absorbing their innovative ideas and the solutions. Today, I have been joined by a couple of my colleagues. Arvind is there, and in the back end, we have Naveen, who is present to contribute their dynamism to this session. So their commitment and endeavor to bringing and shaping this event deserves a round of applause. Now about our company, AI CoreSpot. As I said, it commenced its journey around 4 years ago. It is aimed to establish a focal point for knowledge in different emerging technologies, which includes AI, ML, GenAI, robotics, IoT, and amongst many other areas. Our webinars aim to impart cutting-edge technological developments within the industry. Each month, we explore different technology things, introducing fresh themes and continuing expanding our reach to different markets as well. We aspire to cultivate the foremost AI-centric community globally, inviting like-minded individuals like you all to join in and collectively progress and have the knowledge-sharing sessions. By conducting webinars and hybrid events supported by all our industry insights, we anchor our learning in trustworthy information provided by esteemed experts and all our valuable partners till now. We also curate content across different digital mediums which we have, which includes the blogs, the videos, the podcasts, the newsletters which we keep on sending all throughout the month, which illuminate the rapidly changing landscape which is going on in the world. Turning to today's webinar, for which you all have come here for, we have got a compelling subject on the agenda. As I said earlier, AI at the heart of next-gen patient experience. Our speakers will delve into different and significant aspects such as impact of AI and automation, digital innovations going on in the healthcare space, challenges which is coming up, use of digital tools which is there, and the future of digital health within the healthcare space. The expert panel is set to offer substantial insights and spark enriching discussions which is not to be missed out. So let's begin with some key pointers. Acknowledgements to all our community partners for their pivotal role today, which includes DaVita Kidney Care and InfoVision. An immense thanks to all of you attendees for dedicating your time and energy. Your engagement is crucial in reaching your objectives and networking with the peers. Our primary mission as a company is to facilitate access to valuable knowledge and fostering significant connections. At the end of the session, if you learn some innovative concepts or leverage new networks, we'll consider it a great effort from our side. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speakers for today. The first speaker is J.D. Plagianis, who is a former VP of AI, Automation, and Data Science at McKesson. The second speaker is Priyanka Sharma. She is Senior Director, Automation and QA, GenAI, Center of Excellence, and Performance COE at DaVita Kidney Care. Our third speaker and moderator for today's event is Sandeep Punjani, who is Vice President, Healthcare and Life Sciences at InfoVision. Please note before we commence, there's just a small disclaimer. The opinions expressed by the speakers are their personal ones, and it's not related or represents their associated organizations. With that said, I pass the stage to Sandeep to steer this captivating and exciting panel discussion. Over to you, Sandeep.
Thank you, Nitin. And thank you all for joining us today. We are so excited to have you with us to explore how digital innovations are transforming healthcare delivery, improving patient engagement, and enhancing the overall healthcare experience. Our panelists bring a wealth of experience across various aspects of digital health, from telehealth to AI to data analytics. So together we'll dive deeper into the role of digital innovation in improving the patient outcomes. So before we begin, I encourage you to ask questions, and throughout the session, so there will be a time for Q&A towards the end. So please feel free to share your thoughts and queries in the chat. So let's start with the artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is one of the most exciting developments in the healthcare today. And from diagnostics to predictive analytics, its impact is undeniable. So how do you see the impact of how do you see the AI is impacting the health services in the near future? Maybe Priyanka, we can start with you.
Thank you, Sandeep, and thank you, Nitin and Arvind. Looking forward to be at the panel with JD. The buzzword, right? AI, everybody is talking about it, even our younger generation, even though they don't understand what that is other than Chat GPT. But I can tell you, everybody talks about AI. So it is, as I said, it is getting very interesting to observe on the interest and the intensity around it. And what I really like where AI is impacting the health services is the growing use of this capability is a classic example how when we talk about innovation in medicine, which is not at all related to innovation, are really partner in making an impact for our patients and the providers. So pretty sure that AI is expected to revolutionize, or I see it that it is going to force us to think differently when it comes to speeding up the non-patient facing areas like administrative areas, like we were talking before the webinar started, like how we can actually optimize the OpEx, as JD said, or areas we need to bring more accuracy, right? Or Sandeep, you talked about the predictive analytics, research and trials. So there is a lot of use cases which can be there for AI to provide a positive impact. And the way I see it nowadays, as you read about the industries or you talk to your colleagues in various, healthcare organizations, they have already started to normalize their data, which is actually an asset to be the AI ready organization. And how they will use the data is a big question. Everybody is talking about it. Another impact I see is how legal and compliance, or we talk about the regulations, being in the healthcare, that is an important factor. How interoperability is going to look like, especially when we are getting so much of data built into these models, and it's coming from different diverse sources. And one thing, I was having a discussion with some of my healthcare, in the personal circle, and they were talking about like how they foresee the educational tracks for our healthcare colleagues, how the change management is going to be done when it comes to implementing these solutions, especially when you are talking about replacing a human factor in it. Well, it's not a complete replacement, but that's what people are talking about. A lot to think and plan. So in a nutshell, Sandeep, impact is wide and deep, and not just the technicalities, and also around building the trust.
Sure. Thanks, Priyanka. So JD, your thoughts on how AI is impacting the healthcare?
Absolutely. A lot of my answer might tie to Priyanka's answer. It's around data. So if you think of healthcare in the treatment, payment, and operations spaces, payment and operations, AI is going to come in and move very quickly to revolutionize those spaces, because that's where all the data is. And there's no regulations really around those two spaces. Back office functions, optimizing how many patients sit in an infusion chair in a day. Can you improve that? Can you improve the patient experience? Where it's going to take a little longer, but where it has massive impact is the treatment space. And there are two things blocking it from moving very quickly in the treatment space. One is the regulations that we've put around it. We've built trust systems so that not just anyone can practice medicine, at least here in the States. The other one is data. We have terrible models of the human body. We have to do massive clinical trials. What happens in the lab doesn't usually happen in the real world. So we go and we get real world evidence and we value it very highly. The better we can get at understanding our bodies and the things that live in our bodies, the better we can do at data collection. So the digital technologies that will be helping us revolutionize that, live streaming of data back to information centers, controlling your own data, making sure that it's correct and not flawed. Those are all going to contribute to better drug discovery, better treatment plans.
And among all the different areas, what do you think, which areas of the healthcare AI is going to revolutionize the most?
The most. Fortunately for the humans that will be treated here, it's all aspects. I envision a future where I don't have to go sit and wait in a doctor's office for anything. There are already apps on my phone that can test for everything from Parkinson's to respiratory infections to, it's my blood pressure right now, or do I have an eye infection? I don't have to go anywhere to get that diagnosis. I do still have to go somewhere to get a treatment. Do I actually need to go somewhere to get a treatment in the future? Or will digital technologies allow us to treat ourselves? Or will we be able to get a pill over the counter from our pharmacist? Because the data set around myself is both clustered so they could know what drugs to go after, but it's also highly personalized because it knows how many different clusters I'm a part of. And it can really target just me, and I don't have to worry about toxicity or side effects when I get my treatment. Everything might be 3D printed right there for me to go pick up or to be delivered by drone in the future. I really think everything is going to get better, both on the patient experience and the provider experience.
Thanks, JD. Priyanka, what are your thoughts on this? Any specific area you feel that AI will revolutionize the most?
JD covered quite a bit, and I want to add another school of thought, in fact, that came out of a discussion last week we were having as leaders in the AI, and that really was very enlightened me on this one, that the school of thought was AI in healthcare should be more focused on the rough edges versus the sharp edges. Because whenever we talk about the automation, we believe that we should talk about the sharp edges where we know what solution is going to be there. The stage where AI is in, the recommendation out of that discussion was implementation should be more on the rough edges where you may have many solutions. I believe the rationale behind that one was based on the maturity of these models and the number of trusted implementations. Sometimes something for all of us to think through on what risk we are ready to take being in healthcare. So that is something which I wanted to add on what JD said, that there's another school of thought, which was very interesting from an implementation perspective.
That's very good. So as with the emerging technologies, AI does have limitations. So are there any limitations of AI that you believe need to be addressed right now?
100%. Data. If there isn't a data set, your models aren't going to do much for you. When I talk about AI, I put it in 4 categories. You have traditional AI, like the autopilot that lands your plane. That's all algorithm based. It doesn't need a data set to refine itself. Then you have the traditional data science stuff, like regression, classification, the stuff where we've come to assume, oh, this is a model and it's being built with data, or it's being refined with data. Then you have natural language processing, which was kind of a specialized time series subset of data science, but you had to have your specialists in that. That is completely democratized now that we have these LLMs. They have really made it so that anyone can approach language models now. You don't need a specialist degree. And then finally, computer vision. So those are the 4 spaces that I think of. Computer vision is already very heavily used in healthcare, looking at x-rays, looking at CAT scans to help people spot things that they might not otherwise see. Data science, along with that computer vision, has gone a long way to saying, hey, there's a tumor here. You can't see it yet, but based on all the little pixels that I've learned, there's going to be a tumor here that you will be able to see in 6 months. And we can get ahead of stuff. But there's also a lot of stuff that it's really bad at, because what was the bias in the data when it was trained, right? Is it because there was always a blue arrow around the side, or it had an M in the bottom corner, so it was able to extrapolate information that it otherwise shouldn't have had? It's all coming down to the data, and hopefully we'll get better vision models. But if we can get more data, understand ourselves better, understand our microbiome better, we'll know what questions to ask, what data to gather to actually feed these models useful information, so that we don't end up with correlations instead of causal features.
Sure. And Priyanka, from your perspective, do you see any other limitations?
It is very interesting because whenever we talk about innovation, which is something new for us, right, there are going to be many limitations, or I should say opportunities. So JD, what you touched on the data, right? It's all about data because that is what the foundation is. One thing I want to add to what you said is, are we really looking at data from a community focused perspective, or are we looking at it at a very niche level? So that is one limitation in how we define, or what is the definition of, do I have the data which is community focused? It's covering all the various permutations, combinations which are needed for me to make the solution to be handed it over in the hands of our clinicians who actually manage our lives in some cases, right? So, and the other one I can think of is there are going to be some limitations which this solution cannot solve, is where human cognitive thinking patterns are needed, right? AI should always augment, not replace the human capabilities. That's what we have to remember. Not everything can be fixed with AI, and there are going to be some limitations where the creativity, or we, as you said, also the bias, right, has to be avoided. One more area, as I was talking, I was thinking about the error handling. What is going to be the definition of error in this new world, and the cost of fixing it, right? We really have to think about, when we talk about the error handling, their definitions, the maintainability and the scalability. What is the definition of done? That is something that to me is a limitation because we don't know, and it's an opportunity because we have to fix it. So
yeah, that's true. That's very true. And if we now focus on the healthcare provider side, with the AI and automation integrating into the healthcare, how do you see these technologies shaping the next generation of healthcare providers in terms of their role, training, daily responsibilities?
Priyanka,
JD, you want
to start?
I can start.
Priyanka, whichever.
I'm okay. I can start because I have quite a few friends who are in healthcare, and we talk about it almost in every social setting. So when I was mentioning that AI and automation should augment, not replace the human capabilities, right? That is so true. And when I was hearing your questions, Sandeep, I believe that it's not the next generation. It is touching the existing generation as well, because with the speed this is coming to us, it is all about the readiness, right, towards the change, whether in their thinking pattern mentioned earlier, areas of priority, even some ways where how their day is going to look like, or how it should look like, what type of conversations they now have, and what will they have to be adjusted to fit in when AI and automation is brought in along with them. Like, for example, this is a very, very simple example that patient is there and the doctor has received the summarization of their history, and they're about to go and meet the patient. What used to happen before, they rely, or even now, they rely on the triage nurses who are doing that, having a conversation, looking at the records, preparing a snippet of it. And now AI is going to generate those. So how will their assessment to patients coming from a human being or a tool which became their basis of diagnosis and plan of care? So it is all about how even the existing generation healthcare professionals are going to adopt and learn or relearn how to make someone sitting in front of them comfortable with what they're about to say. And there are other roles, right? Radiology is a very classic case study where everybody's talking about it's going to replace the radiologist, which is not true. They will optimize their process. They will help in the proactive aspects of it. And this generation, new generation, will have to have education around it. Another important thing I always try to keep in mind is, like, are we speaking the same language? What I mean by that one is, regardless of what innovations are going on at a particular corporate setting or a healthcare setting, are all the professionals understanding what AI is and how they can contribute towards how it can be used to make their informed decisions? So the biggest role change is going to be they have to be in it. They cannot be sitting outside on the receiving end. It is a long road. Trust me, a lot of readiness plans have to be created, not just with the existing generation as well.
Yeah. And JD,
Definitely onto that as well. That was a really good point. It reminded me of a story. I talked to a guy who was doing a startup, and I honestly thought this was the stupidest startup idea I had ever heard. So let me run it by you and see what your thoughts are. This guy had used RAG to help clinicians pull up information about how to do, say, CPR using their phones. So they could talk to their phone and it would tell them what to do in an emergency situation. And I thought, oh yes, that's what I would like. If I were a patient and I were having a heart attack, I would like my clinician to look away from me, talk to their phone, and the phone tell them what to do, and then they turn around and try to do it. That sounds terrifying. But this guy then came back and told me about the usage data. And you have to make data-driven decisions here. So I was put in my place immediately because he said that this skews very heavily towards younger physicians. They're already so comfortable being on their phones for everything all the time that it's completely natural for them to interact with their phone to get information, even in critical emergency settings. So it's driving this way. And I see this, I have a robotics team that I coach and mentor for. A lot of these kids have never written a line of code in their entire life. But thanks to the AI tools that are out there, they write code that makes a robot work. Do they understand the code? Do they understand why it works, how it works? Not necessarily. It can help explain it to them as well. It's pretty good at that. But they get functioning output from a domain that they don't have expertise in, which is incredible. And that is really the change I think, Priyanka, you were touching on here. It doesn't matter whether you were an expert or a novice in a space. This is going to impact how you do your daily tasks. And at some point, it's going to be so good that it will be malpractice to not include AI in the loop. If you're a radiologist, to not have AI look at the x-rays ahead of time and then point at things, or to double check your work, or to not be on the tumor panel, right? There's so many new technologies that are coming. And as long as we can separate the treatment, the payment, and the operations in our minds and understand where the regulations sit and where digital innovation can move fast to help us and where we need to be more deliberate, I think we can move at the correct pace. No one, whether you're a physician or someone sitting in the finance department in the back office, is going to be able to escape bringing AI tools into their daily workflow. And they shouldn't want to. If these things are great, it should be an amazing user experience for the clinician, and it should be an amazing patient experience improvement as well.
Very true, very true. Yeah, these digital tools are definitely broadening the reach of healthcare and really contributing. Priyanka, maybe we can start. So with these digital tools being available, where do you see the talent shortage going to persist? Or you mentioned that the AI should assist but cannot replace. But do you see that talent shortage will still remain, or it will go away?
Yeah, innovations have been a part of our life since the time we were born, right? So AI is one of the innovations and is a little bit in more advanced stage. So when we talk about the talent shortages, especially when you read all the case studies or the papers around where healthcare industry is going, we all know that the prediction is that it's going to be the largest driver of growth through the next decade. And the biggest opportunity is you need some talent to be walking and running along with it, right? And we are going through a talent crunch, or I should now call it, since the stage of the industry we are in, digital talent crunch. So to me, when I talk about that, the digital aspect to it, we need both technical and healthcare expertise. When I say technical, to JD, your point, I don't mean that we need to know the nuts and bolts, right? Rather, this is more on how comfortable I am in using the digital platforms which are in front of me, given to me, and how comfortable I am with the overall constant change management. I love to use those two words together because change is constant, right? To keep up with the pace. So when we talk about the finding the right talent, it is going to be a huge challenge because we need to find people who have both the technical aptitude and the healthcare knowledge. So think about like where healthcare professionals like to spend their entire time. It's because of the ecosystem they live in, certifications. They have to go through so many exams. They need to read about the new medications. They need to be top of all the research or the trials. Or are we expecting them to read about AI or machine learning? Really means what would they choose? How will they balance, right? So as we are emphasizing this digital transformation, every interaction with the patient and everything what a healthcare professional does, it has to be really thought through and how we are going to prepare them. And Jerry, to your point, the phones, right? I call them oxygen tanks. They cannot live without them. And are they really comfortable in using this innovation track even with their oxygen tank? That is a big question. I don't think people are quite there yet. They want to be, and it's going to take some time.
It all comes down to the patient experience and the user experience. Any technology you put behind an amazing user experience, people are going to want to use, even if it's not the best technology that's ever existed. It's just better and it makes everybody happy. How many physicians spend all their time just typing things into an EHR, right? That should go away for sure. You were talking about all the research that clinicians are expected to do. Well, there is more research published every day than any one person can read. And more than likely, they have a couple trusted sources that are summarizing the research for them. And then they just kind of keep an eye on that blog or that doctor's perspective. Well, now they can have a custom AI summarizing all the research every day, highlighting the things that really matter to them. And they don't have to worry about that layer of bias in between. Everything in healthcare is based on trust, and we've built regulations and licensing requirements around it. There are amazing clinicians out there that don't have a certification. They're perfectly qualified to do a thing, but they can't do that thing because our society says you don't have this certification or this license, you should not be able to do this thing. That's not true elsewhere in the world. It's more of an open market there where we don't have those trust systems in place. What I see is anywhere you have regulations and licensure, you're going to have shortages of talent because not everyone who wants to be able to do it will be able to do it. So I wouldn't be surprised if you end up seeing digital innovation blossom in other places first. And that could actually disrupt our healthcare system in such a way that you get more medical tourism. There's a lot of fun stories, terrible stories, I guess I shouldn't say fun stories. I'm going to go over the border and I'm going to get this treatment done because it's super cheap over there. Well, when it's a robot doing treatment or it's a model doing that treatment, that model is probably way better than any one doctor could be, even here in the United States, right? So if you're getting that level treatment just over the border where you don't have the licensure restrictions, suddenly there isn't a quality concern, it's just a cost concern. And that could very quickly drive people's decisions because from an experience perspective, I could spend my money on food, clothing, some entertainment, or my healthcare. And if it costs me $25 to go get my healthcare over the border, I might as well make it part of my trip, my enjoyable travel vacation, instead of paying $2,500 to do the same thing here and not be able to take a vacation that year. Those decisions get made on the margin every day. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a tipping point that we see in the next few years that drives it that direction.
Yeah, I think you brought a very interesting point about the cost and the user experience. So In fact, to give a good user experience, data plays very important role, and it's one of the key enablers for the digital health transformation. So how do you think the data, the digital innovation impact the data and analytics means?
So, JD, as I said earlier, data is an asset. And long time back when I started my corporate career, even these things were not so famous. I was told if you do not have the data, then you cannot speak for yourself. And so it is still true. It's just the versions have changed, right? So with the innovation in the data side, we are so lucky actually that we are able to collect and analyze this huge amount of diverse sources. What I mean by diverse sources is, right, like it's not like someone entering in their EHR, what is the vital, what is the lab work around it, or what kind of orders I'm going to make, or what kind of plan of care or treatment plans are going to be there. It is coming from so many different sources which we never had the opportunity in the past. Like you have the home monitoring machines, or you have those variables like which the beep, like if your sugar level is up or high, or they are getting the vitals. You have the IoTs who are generating so much of the structured and the unstructured data from all the various devices which can be connected. And this is actually uh, like a golden area for us. And even like as I mentioned earlier, organizations are really spending a huge amount of their investment in there, taking it from some area and putting it there because they have started to believe that that's the goal for them. And if we look at the other things where machine learning algorithms are there, which are helping in normalizing the information or even the cleaning up and making it usable and making it presentable, right? Or making sense out of it, right? When we talk about the predictions, or when we talk about proactive detections or the NLP side of things, right? All these things are being possible. Or even when we talk about the radiology example, there is data underlying in those models, which is giving them all the various permutations, combinations, of course, known permutations, combinations, that if they see something in a scan like this, it may be this, right? So without data, I don't think so we can go towards the direction we are going. And we just have to remember that whatever we make, we have to also think about whether it's bringing the efficiency and taking care of the patients. That's the most important thing. Data can be dangerous too. So we just have to be
Yeah.
careful.
100% agree on that. Data can be dangerous, but there's a funny thing that happens when you look at healthcare data. Some of it comes in real time, some of it's high quality, some of it's very low quality, but some of it, like claims, they might have an 18-month run out. So let's pretend I'm trying to build a model that predicts heart failure, and I'm watching people's blood pressure and cholesterol, whatever I can collect from their watch that they've got on. And I see that there's an interesting trend towards what I would think is a negative activity, but then the next day, everything is fine. Everything's back to normal, and everything just goes on. And then 18 months later, I get a data point in my data set that said, oh, this person had a heart attack, and they went in and they got it fixed, and now they have a better, healthier cardiovascular system, and they've changed their diet and exercise afterwards. If I didn't have that claims data point to support there was an intervention based on the trend of this data, I can't build a model that says analytically this person is in danger, because to me it looks like, well, when things start to go off the rails, oh, look at that, they just reset themselves very easily and conveniently on their own. So having real-time data, having high quality data in some silos, and then not being able to merge it with other important events on the treatment side can be completely useless. Or you can have the wrong treatment written down, and then your model gets skewed the wrong way. There's so much, but if you can get high quality, high volume data to coexist and to talk to each other, all coming in around the same time periods, you can build some amazing stuff that can really improve patient outcomes. Right now, it can improve the way that doctors feel confident in creating a treatment plan. We don't have that today. That is where a lot of digital innovation could come from, is even the financial side of our practices.
Yeah, no, definitely great points. And if we look at the practical side of things, mentioned real-time data which is available. So how does this real-time data collection influence the decision-making for the healthcare providers? Does it influence the decision-making?
Yeah, just like JD was talking about the accessibility, right? You have the historical data and then you have the real data. That gives a good combination. So when we talk about the real data, I will give you my experience. So when you are looking at your lab results, as an example, right? You have your apps on the phone. You feel so good. I don't know how to describe that feeling, that I can look at my phone and quickly see, oh, my results came in. And that is more of a real-time data being captured while I'm still sitting in the clinic, and in the next room, they are doing a quick lab test on whatever samples they took. So it is more about like I'm able to see that my healthcare professional is getting the real-time information. And just like JD, you were talking about the proactive, the management of the potential health risk, intervention, like the quick one, any adjustment. So all of these factors come into picture, and it is really making our patients more comfortable with the digitization of it and how the data is being collected, processed, and presented, especially real time. And most up-to-date data is used in their plan of care, because I don't want my physician to look at a result which was a week before, right, and give me the plan of care or the assessment or the diagnosis. I want them to look at what they did today and what they analyzed today. So it is definitely giving good tools in our healthcare provider hands to make some of those very difficult and sensitive decisions.
Yeah.
And I'll flip to the other side of the TPO triangle here with that answer. Patient experience. How many times have you gone and you sat in a waiting room for hours where you've had bad interactions with the staff, but the doctor was great? That is completely unacceptable in this day and age. And if you can even do your better data on your patient experience, not just your treatment outcomes, then the medicine doesn't have to taste so bad. People will want to engage with your practice more often. You'll probably be able to handle a higher volume of patients because you can push off a lot of the stuff that your staff has to do right now. When we went to telemedicine, everyone went overnight during COVID, right? Because they had to. You can't come into the doctor's office, period. So everybody just picked up their phone and started doing telemedicine. And oh, wow, you can do all these other things that we thought you could only do in person, or that somebody had to wait hours or fill out forms and blah, blah, blah. All of that can go away. So from a patient experience perspective in general, good data and good data capture, it's huge.
Sure, yeah. And data capture is one aspect, and the second aspect is how you analyze and use it for the patient outcomes. So in your opinion, what way can advanced analytics improve the patient outcomes?
JD, you want to go first, or do you want me to?
Sure. But patient outcomes, so I think the biggest revolution is going to be in our drug pipeline, because I'm going to be able to build new drugs incredibly fast, test them on human models instead of clinical trials, and pump them out 3D printed and fly them to you via drone. You don't have to leave your house. You cough into your phone, it hears, oh, you have pneumonia. Here you go. In 20 minutes, your pills are ready and you feel better in the evening. That is the future of healthcare. And so if we're spending a lot of our time focused on the doctor's office, then we're we're missing what people want from all of their experiences. All your big box retailers are closing right now because everybody buys on Amazon, who I think just surpassed Walmart finally in revenues. Is that a surprise to anybody? The same thing is going to happen in healthcare. Go to where the patients are, the customers are, meet them there. Don't bring them to you and force them to fit into your schedule and your preferences.
Yeah. If I may expand a little bit to what JD you said, like in addition to the medicine or the pharmacy side of things, when we talk about the data, people, especially from an analytics perspective, we all have to really appreciate and understand that it's not just you're simply collecting the information, right? It really involves a lot of complex rules, interpretation behind the scenes, looking at, like, for example, in the population health management, where we are looking at a lot of data from a patient population, and we are sort of creating some traces on what areas of improvement or what interventions based on what preconditions they had, how has been their trending of their results, and also all of these are also essentially helping with improving the patient outcomes. Another simple example is, which is a real pain point, is when you are giving a plan of care instructions in your discharge summary or over the phone with your PCP, and how we are making sure communicating in a personalized manner with the patients, that knowing the trending, that this is not going to be followed by our patients. And if they don't follow it, it is going to go in a completely different direction for their health. So how are we convincing them? How we are convincing them with personalized communications or personalized instructions, knowing the trending, right, in front of us? There are quite a few uses, like you pointed out, JD, on the prescriptive side. There can be on the diagnostic or the predictive. So there are quite a few, areas where these analytics can be used. We just have to make sure that we are making our choices wisely and considering all the risk and the possible outcomes. So that is the one message I really want to make sure. As I said earlier, data is asset and dangerous. Repeating myself here. So
There's actually a good question in the Q&A about data right now. We want to address that one.
Sure.
Live data versus patient records. When you...
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sure. The question is, in healthcare, live data versus patient records, which should be preferred? And then it talks about cures and processes are based on past results from surgeons and doctors. When you say should be preferred, it sounds like a mutually exclusive outcome, and that is not how models work today. So if you look at, say, tracking, it's tracking my head as I move left and right. There is a model there that understands that there's a head, and the eyes are not going to suddenly move out of that head. So the eyes will always be the same distance apart. And as I move, I'm either going to move left, right, up, or down. I'm unlikely to move forward and backwards by a significant amount, so the distances shouldn't change. So for tracking purposes, I can build a physics model live based on the information here, and I can do a lot of my decision making based on that physics model. But if in reality I do lean very close to the screen and something starts to change, that model should begin to prefer the reality and adjust to the reality. So there are wonderful, this is the type of AI that I was talking about, traditional AI, where it's all algorithm based. You don't need a lot of data to figure out how to do this. Those algorithms have been around for a very long time, and you can use them together. So if you get a new data point live that contradicts what your model is telling you should be there, it will begin to prefer a little more of the live data. And if it goes back to normal, like everything starts to match the model again, it'll go back to preferring your historical model, your physics-based model. If it continues to diverge from that model, it will begin preferring more and more that live data. So if you're testing a new drug and you're starting to see some new behavior, it will begin preferring that live real-world data over the expected clinical trial data that you've seen.
Sure. Now talking about some of the challenges that can come with the digital innovation. What are your thoughts on some of the challenges to consider with the digital innovation in the healthcare? Priyanka, you want to
Yeah, sure.
go?
So, in addition to what we talked about, Sandeep, is like the data accuracy, right? That is the biggest challenge, which I don't think so anybody can deny, and the diversity of the data, the cleanliness of the data, quality of the data. Of course, these are quite a few factors. In addition to that, to me, the biggest challenge is the mindset, right? How are we going to make sure that our community is really made comfortable and is educated on where we are shifting? When I talk about the community, I'm not just talking about the healthcare professionals, I'm talking about the people on the receiving end. Me being a patient, am I comfortable that my physician is using an AI model to come up with a summarization to make his diagnosis? Am I going to be asking my doctor in the next visit? I almost did in my last visit and I stopped myself. I just didn't want it to spoil the relation because I don't know what do they think about AI, right? Like, I don't know. So
Yeah.
am I going to be asking them like, where did you got the data from, right? Like, that's the challenge in the interactions. How are we going to make them comfortable? Of course, like we talk about learning never stops and will be a little difficult in case we get resistance from both the sides on the digital expertise. Data privacy is another challenge, right? When we ask about or when I search that what are the guardrails from a compliance or regulation perspective we have on all these models or the data which is present or being shared across, like how is that coming along? Do we have the definitions or the guardrails around it, or we are still in the process of building the governance? Most important thing with that is it is going to be a journey, and how we are making sure that the people who are using know that we are working on it on the governance part. We are not there yet. Another classic example is whoever is in healthcare have been there for a long time. There have been a lot of long time back built systems. How do they fit in, right? So not every solution would be applicable, like for community hospitals or for rural areas or clinics where they may not have the infrastructure or even the awareness around it. So it is a long list, but I would summarize it from a data perspective and also education and readiness from a legacy infrastructure to the new ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Sure.
The governance piece is huge on that. Traditionally, or historically, I guess you would say, we've focused on data governance. Can you control your data and its quality so that your models can build believable solutions? And there is a question in the Q&A I can touch on here with that is explainability behind your models. If you're using a data science approach, the regression classification kind of stuff, you can use SHAP values or something to help you understand which features in your data set contributed the most to the decision, the outcome, so that you can drive explainability. You wouldn't want to use some sort of black box. And with the new generative AI, you can rely on chain of thought or the reasoning models to help. It will explain its work to get you to your outcome. So both of those are covered. But what we miss these days, or what hasn't really been established, are model governance people. Everybody has data governance in their business, or they should, if they're working with models. But very few people have model governance to stop a model from disclosing other patients' credit card details with a well-crafted prompt, or from giving you medical advice where it shouldn't, or from spewing hate speech when you're just, trying to pay your invoice or something like that. Model governance is a new-ish thing, and there are not a lot of qualified model governance people out there. So I think from a talent shortage perspective, that's something we're going to run up against really, really soon, next 12 months.
Right. And Priyanka, you touched upon the education and training side of it on the digital tool. So while implementing these tools, training and education is definitely critical. So what role does the training and education play in your mind for the successful implementation of these digital tools?
So the way I see these are a must and not a nice to have. Of course, even like with, like say for EHRs or for any of the digital platforms we are building, there are training modules. And the way I see the shift in how they should be built in future, it's more around how we are going to make them comfortable with the adoption, building the trust around it. To me, not just having a training is essential. To me, what is vital in the training is it should be very focused on the roles users have been playing and will play in future, how their day or the conversations or the interactions are going to be changing, even to the point of how am I going to communicate to the patient in my legal language that this was a result of an AI model, right? Simple things. Or we should also consider factors of their workspace. Sometimes we are doing the telepart, sometimes we are in a rural area, or sometimes we are in a hospital setting where infrastructure may be really good or may not be good, right? Or what other systems they have to work on. And it is more about right now, not how these solutions work, it's more about how these solutions are going to be used in their day-to-day. So training and education have to be adjusted. And earlier I mentioned around when we talk about the healthcare, the education tracks are huge. Oh my goodness, it's such a vast field. Are we expecting that universities or colleges or these education centers should also look at the practicality aspect around it so that they can prepare our next generation? So some things which we really have to take into account. It is a must-have.
Yeah. And now, these digital tools are making a difference in the personalized care side also. JD, what do you think? How does digital innovation support the personalized care plan?
We have terrible models of the human body in general. I think I might have mentioned that early. We have to do clinical trials because we can't test these things in a digital space. We don't understand all of the little creatures that live inside of our bodies or ourselves. So you look at diseases, cancer, for example, it's not just the cells that you have to go after. It's all of these other foreign bodies or your own body protecting these spaces. There's a lot to unravel, and we don't have good digital models of those things. So we don't even know necessarily what questions to ask about what data we need to collect. Today, you're seeing more and more biomarkers being tracked. Well, which biomarkers matter, which ones don't? We have to do studies on that. You have 1 trillion different bacteria living in your body. Which ones and in what ratios actually make an impact? It's different for every person. You can take a swab from one person and another person. They look completely different, and yet they're both happy, healthy humans. Why? We have so many things to answer. Being able to collect information via these digital innovations takes us there. It really moves the needle, and it doesn't have to move all the way overnight. It's incremental. So again, if I can make you just a little bit healthier with one little tweak, or I can give you more power over your own medical history, your medical data, by giving you a new insight, people are going to buy into it. And doctors are going to support it because it helps them craft a better treatment plan. Because you can't necessarily rely on your patient to tell you their whole history, but the data might tell that history very clearly.
Right. So, maybe you can share that what challenges arise when we integrate personalized care with the digital platforms. Are your thoughts in terms of the hurdles we face? And
quite a few, right? We all know that we are moving into the personalized care model. It is no longer just a vision, right? It has to be there. So it is now a reality, right? That is tailoring the treatments and the patient interactions based on the individual need, right? The challenges I see are the part of this vision and advancement, like in case sometimes too much reliance on data. And just like JD, you were talking about, like, is that data sufficient? Is it the decisions are made only on the data centric aspects? Are we thinking creatively, right? When we talk about the interoperability, or when we talk about, let me take an example. As a patient, I have a PCP, and then I have a specialist I see in, let's say, Wendy. How do I know that they are talking to each other? How do I know that the information is flowing, that the treatment I'm getting in Wendy? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. And human body, as JD you also said, is very complicated and integrated. One thing can impact the other. How am I going to be comfortable that my physician has in their hands the entire health spectrum about me as a patient?
Yep.
When we talk about the creativity, right, the human cognitive thinking, it is also going to be based on what I see on the paper, or what I see on the EHRs, or the digital tools I have in front of me, right? So, and when we talk about, of course, data privacy, security, quality, and reliability and scalability, right? So when we look at the technology, right, and we are looking at making it personalized, we also need to understand that we just cannot work in silo. We also have to take a look at holistically on the ecosystem what the patient is living in, not just from the health, even from the mental perspective. So that is the biggest challenge I see, is availability of the right data at the right time.
Yeah.
And if see the privacy is always a top concern when we are dealing with the digital tools. So maybe JD, you can share how does the use of digital tool in healthcare impact the patient privacy?
This is so huge, because I'm not sure there still is digital privacy. What was it, like 80% of all living Americans' data just got leaked last year, and you're getting letters in the mail. I probably have one here on my desk telling me that my data is out there forever for someone else to use. So traditionally, and hopefully this is not too hard for our audience to hear, healthcare providers have relied on security by obscurity. You have a patient fill out a form on a piece of paper, you shove it into a filing cabinet, and then the next time they show up, they fill out the form again and again. And oops, we left the filing cabinet at our last office when we moved. I don't know who has it now, but we need you to fill the form out again. That is also digital privacy for a privacy concern, but it didn't scale because it wasn't digital. So not everyone in the world could have my data overnight. Now they do. And so this is where I think data ownership really needs to come in. You should control your own data, blockchain, however you want to do it. Groom it, make sure it is exactly what you want it to be. It's accurate, it's up to date, it's complete. And then charge other people who want to access that data. And you get to approve that. And it's encrypted, you control that. This is the way we're going to have to start doing this, because expecting doctors to control all of our medical records with non-interoperable systems, right? Like I can go get $50 out of an ATM in Alaska, but I can't get my medical records up there. I got to make some phone calls and get things to happen. It's ridiculous. That has to change for digital privacy to be a real thing, because as it stands today, it is a massive, completely scalable disaster.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think we are almost on top of the hour, but before we conclude, maybe some final comments. How do you foresee the future of digital health in the shaping the future of the patient experience?
Priyanka, do you want to take this one first?
Sure. So the way I would like to end is, of course, with a quote and one statement. The statement is that the patient needs an experience, not an explanation, right? So we just have to remember that they're not looking for where it is coming from. They go to a doctor, they trust them, for all the right reasons. So they need an experience. And the quote, which I really, really love is, and I'm going to read it so that I don't mess it up. It is by Daniel K. Morans, and he has said, you can have data without information, but you cannot have information without data. So that is the life we live in. Over to you,
that.
JD.
I want to remind everybody that healthcare is not about the doctor. It's about the patient. The patient is the customer here. They're the ones with the need. And if you expect the patient to come to you for the service, you're doing it wrong. I think all of the care will come to the patient in the future. So anything where we have a large data set, a model will probably be able to do it better at some point than a human. But relationships are important, especially in an aging society. Perhaps the younger generations don't even have relationships with their healthcare providers, but they are not the largest segment of the population yet, right? So for the time being, I think doctors will continue to play a very critical role from a trust and experience relationship standpoint, but I don't believe it will be long before it is malpractice not to consult an AI model about the holistic piece of the patient when you're dealing with your specialty.
Great, thanks, Yadi. I think we took some questions from the attendees before, but we may have few minutes to take a couple of more questions. So before we conclude, shall we take a couple of more questions from the audience side? So one question is from Michelle Little. How do we see AI redefining the role of healthcare professionals, and what skills will be crucial for the next generation of doctors and clinicians?
I think we touched on that at the very beginning. She missed that. It's going to be accepting the new digital technologies into your workflow. And ideally, those new digital technologies enhance your workflow. Like, that's a better experience than typing in your EHR all day and then trying to sift through data that might be, out of date when you need it. There is a push towards leveraging AI, especially the generative technologies that you see today, more and more, but being able to align that to support the physician, not necessarily to replace the physician.
Yeah.
And Sandeep, I would like to take this question, which is very interesting.
Sure. Okay.
I'm looking at the name. Josh has asked that question. What are the potential applications of AI-driven robotic surgery, and how close we are to the mainstream adoption? If it's okay, I take that one, Sandeep?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Thank
please.
you. So when I read this question, it reminded me of early this year. I'm speaking from my personal experience. I was in India for a family member's knee replacement surgery. And as soon as I entered the building arena of that hospital, I saw like a huge board that they were the first one to adopt the robotic knee replacement platform. And they are very proud for the same. And there are so many surgeries which are done by the robotic capability, and they have been very successful. On a live monitor, they were actually showcasing how many surgeries with the robotic, without the details, are in progress and how many have been completed. Even then, I was not comfortable to sign for my family member to go to the robotic surgery. My bad. Still a little bit old school when it comes to the older generation in the family, right? For all the right reasons. So the reason I'm bringing this example is I'm talking about an area, a place, or a location in a part of this world who may not be very comfortable till the time they are sitting next to the doctor, or the doctor with 5 people are standing in front of them during an operation or a surgery. And over there, if we are talking about the mindset shift, this is huge. And they were using all the live data to convince people that this is really happening. This is not on the billboards. So potential is, yes, in the knee replacement or some of those areas, it has been, I don't want to speak on the clinician side of things or the clinical data, because that is not my space. I can tell you that people have started to talk who are non-healthcare people, who are on the receiving end, because of the data that is coming in front of them.
Absolutely. 100%. Agency is one of the scariest things, I think, for most people when it comes to AI. And now all you hear is the buzzword about AI agents out there, right? The closest thing you can think of to AI agency are the self-driving cars or the robotic surgeons. And if you've ever been in a self-driving car, it's the most boring experience ever. It's not exciting. It just does a great job. And the data says that the accident rates are lower and that the speed of arrival is better than when you have human drivers. They don't get addicted to things. They don't lack sleep. They're not thinking about something else when they're doing the surgery. Like, all of these things tell us we should trust the robots to do this, but it's still a big leap to go from, humans who have all their flaws, but we understand their flaws because we identify with them, and putting our trust in that human, and then trying to relate that to this alien creature, which has this body built purpose for the surgery or for driving you around. It's going to be, I think, a generational shift as people begin to trust robots more and more. I really think
That's
it'd
true.
probably do a much better person well, though, in the long run.
Yeah. And maybe you can just take one last question from the audience. There's a question from Manish Dabas. In healthcare, live data versus patient records, which should be preferred? As most of cures and processes are based on successfully proven doctors/surgeons results. So what are your takes? Which one
I
should be
think
preferred?
we did summarize a little bit, and I can summarize it again. Like when we talk about the data, to me, we cannot not have one of those. We have to have both. Because when we talk about, as we were explaining, right, in some of the examples JD and I shared, that when you are doing an assessment, you are doing a summarization, you end up doing a diagnosis, you are not only looking at the historical as a whole, you are also looking at the live data. What is happening to a patient right now? So when you are building these models, I understand there is a lot of historical information associated with it. That is helping you to summarize certain things, to guide you through the next set of conversations. You need to have the live data in front of you so that you can make informed decisions. So that is one thing which they go together. I don't see any separation in those.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Priyanka and JD. We have covered wide range of insights today. And from those, it's clear that the digital innovations are not just reshaping healthcare, they are fundamentally changing how we approach care, accessibility, and the patient outcomes. So once again, thank you so much, Priyanka and JD, for sharing your expertise with us. And thank you to our audience for joining us today. I am part of InfoVision, and we are a technology enablers and help the customers develop and implement the digital solutions in the healthcare industry. So feel free to reach out to me if you feel we could be of help. And over to you, Nitin.
Thank you, everyone. So first of all, I'd like to express means as a company and all our appreciation to the community partners who have been associated with us till today. We had Priyanka, who has been our past speaker as well. So thanks to you, Priyanka, for bringing your thought process together again for today. We had JD and moderator, obviously Sandeep is there, and the attendees who attended today's event. I'm sure you found it very engaging in this forum. We as a company, obviously, we went into a lot of minute details of bringing this event together. That's why you see the minute key matrices which we discussed for this event and how digital innovations are shaping patient experience. I'm sure it has given a lot of knowledge enrichment and thought process to take back and put the same into practice into all our areas where we are working or want to work for. So as I said, our panel members were outstanding. We value their willingness to collaborate and share the valuable insights today as well. Our event was in LinkedIn Live today, and if you missed any part of the session and want to revisit it, today's event will be available on our company's YouTube page for your convenience. As exciting technological advancements are on the horizon, we are thrilled to explore more in this year. We are going into a lot of industries, guys. So we are into banking, financial, insurance, telecom, retail, healthcare, supply chain, manufacturing, and much more. So stay connected with us for continuous learning what we bring together. For more technological updates, visit our website and social media channels like it. We'll be sharing a wealth of knowledge, including details, announcements for upcoming events, and much more, which will aid you in registration. We look forward to your support. A heartfelt thanks to InfoVision, who is our knowledge and innovation partner, and Digit7, who is our technology partner. So explore their websites at infovision.com and dive deeper into the technological advancements which they are bringing as well. We thoroughly enjoyed bringing this session to you guys and hope you found it as enjoyable as we did. We eagerly anticipate more sessions with you in the future. Take care and have a great day and year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.